A lot of times when people think of PTSD, they think of adults, people that have gone away at war and come back, or people that have been through losses or different things in life. They don't realize that adults are not the only ones that go through trauma. Children go through trauma as well. And many times the reason why it's not identified is because people don't think that kids have PTSD. In our agency, we see a lot of kids come in with PTSD. And what does that look like? PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of times, we don't think that kids have that because they're so young. But with PTSD, one thing that people go through is triggers of something that's happened in their past. And so people look at kids and just assume, oh, they're kids. They're not going to remember. They're resilient. And that's really not the case. We have so many times kids that come in and certain smells, like certain noises or certain environments cause kids to get triggered with anxiety and fear. And when they see that anxiety and fear, one thing that happens is it causes them to act out or respond as though they are still in that traumatic situation. And understanding that that triggers probably what's causing them to be in that place helps us find out, hey, what was the trigger that caused them to respond that way? What was that trigger that caused that anxiety on the inside of them? So it could be a wide range of things. A food that they've been used to, something that they used to eat when they were in their traumatic situation, the perfumes that someone around them, the abuser, was wearing, or the smell of the detergent in the air or the air freshener in the air, or just even the feel, like maybe it was the fact that when it was on a cold day, so when winter comes, they're triggered, or it's during the summer. We see that a lot with our kids where, when school's about to shut down and the heat starts coming in, there's a fear that comes on the inside of these children because they think, okay, well, I'm going home, I'm going to be at home for my summer break, and that's when the abuse increases. So there's many different things that cause triggers inside children as well as adults when you go through a traumatic situation. I remember one of my clients that I had that had been sexually abused, and she came into custody because of the abuse. And we made so much progress in this child, letting her know it wasn't her fault, letting her know that she's not removed from the home because of anything she did wrong, but what was done to her wasn't right. This child went from not being able to face people to getting to a place where she was finally picking up on life, going to school, doing well. And one day I get a phone call from the foster parent, and this child had come home, torn up the house, locked herself in the bathroom, and was trying to take her own life. We had her assessed, and after the assessment and all that, I had an opportunity to sit with her, and me and her talked about the situations and what it looked like all the time, and what, her abuser did. Like after he had finished abusing her, he would always give her Sunkist, the orange flavored Sunkist, because that was her favorite. As we backtracked to what caused that regression, I remember me and her were talking about the birthday party. She was having so much fun, and she went over and she got orange soda. And she as we went through her day, I realized that orange soda brought about the taste of what she got after being abused. So it brought all her feelings back. So whether it be that fear or whatever that struggle was, like it all came back to her, and she couldn't recognize it. She didn't know what happened because she didn't recognize, okay, hey, this orange soda brought me back to that place that I was once in. But once we were able to identify it, we were able to realize orange soda was a trigger for her because it was a part of her past and her abused life. A client that comes in with PTSD, to be quite honest, it's really hard to identify all the triggers and even all the traumas, because a lot of these kids shut down when they think about their trauma, and that's like the defense mechanism that a lot of kids and adults both use. And so they get to a point where they try to suppress that memory. So there's a lot of forgetting that event or pretending like it didn't happen. So details of it does not come up. So in our agency, one of the things we do is we know that about 90% of the clientele we get have been through some kind of trauma, which they are diagnosed with PTSD. So we first, as all the clinicians and the parents or anybody dealing with these clients, we identify with the fact that, hey, a lot of these behaviors may come from the trauma and the unknown. They don't know why they feel certain ways. They don't know why they're responding in the certain way that they do. And a lot of the famous line of a lot of these kids and clients are, I don't know. Like, why'd you do that? I don't know. Why'd you respond that way? I don't know. And it's really and truly like frustrating for a therapist, but it's really how they feel. They don't know. And so helping them identify their triggers. One thing we do is we try to find patterns. Why do they respond? Like what time of the year or what time of day? Like, is it like mainly when they wake up in the morning, or is it right before bed? And are we seeing a common pattern to the fact of their behaviors or to the response of their behaviors? And as we go through that, we start to realize, okay, there's some kind of trigger there, and we kind of dig in, like, what did your night routine look like? What did you used to do? And talk about their past. And slowly, even though it's hard and the behaviors start to continue and may even increase initially, they're able to go back and pull out, like, okay, so this is what happened and this is what it looked like. And we're able to figure out what that trigger is. So once we figure out that trigger, our approach is, how do we cope with that trigger? Like, how do we help this client get to a place where when they're feeling that way, reminding them that you're not unsafe and that's not going to happen to you again, but reminding them that they're in a safe place and we're there to help them so that trauma doesn't inflict them again. So once we identify the trauma or the trigger, helping them cope with it, and a lot of times what I use is finding ways to bring a positive approach to that time. So even if it is, okay, I love to color. Okay, so I'm feeling negative. I'm feeling like I'm scared. Giving them a color sheet to color and get their mind off, or watching comedy. I've noticed for the older clients, and that's one of the things that they like to do, see something funny or talk to somebody else, so that their mind is not going that way, where they can discuss the trauma, being able to talk about it, talk it through, and having someone that they trust that can remind them, hey, you're not there anymore and it's not going to happen again. So we try to identify with the client, what is that coping? What is that trigger? And just kind of revisiting it all and identifying it and finding a way to get past it.